He kōna ipurangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
Kia ora, Pilina Lau here from Culture 101. Every Sunday around 1:30 we catch up with our regular cast of movie reviewers, and this week we're looking at The Christophers, Mandalorian and Grogu, and Masters of the Universe with the one and only Kate Rodger.
Girds my loins, that little sting. Thank you so much. I'm now in the mood. Let's talk about movies.
Let's talk about movies. Now, after this, before we dive into your list for this week, you are going to go to the movies. Physically, to the cinemas.
We are going to the cinemas to see movies.
What are you going to see?
The thing is, I have been hearing all about these two films that everyone seems to be talking about because they are saving cinema, which is Obsession. One is a horror film. It's R16. I couldn't even finish the trailer, Polina, so I won't be going to that because I'm a bit of a lily girl when it comes to really full-on horrors. But there's another one called Backrooms, and I am going to go and see it on my own after I come off air with you. And may the force be with me because I think it's going to be a little bit creepy. But my son, who's 13, Max, went yesterday. It's rated M. And he said I can manage it, which is, I thought, okay, boy, I'm going to do it because I just need to get an understanding of why people are absolutely flocking to both of these films.
Well, the thing is with these two films and with Backrooms, it was a YouTube series.
Correct.
And effectively now that has become a film. So you've got these YouTubers making movies and the box office numbers are incredible. We're talking... What, $200 million here?
We are
in the last couple of weeks
for a film that was made. Obsession was made for $1 million US. Backrooms budget was a little bit higher. I think it was around $10 million. And again, insane numbers, top of the box office. In fact, Kane Parsons, just 20 years old, Melina, with that film Backrooms, and it's the youngest director ever to debut at number one in the States. It's actually insane.
And it's interesting conversation around it, isn't it? Because people are saying, oh, is this the future of cinema? We're going to have these YouTubers, taking over the movies. They're in here now. What do you make of all that kind of chat?
Well, it's not like Mr. Beast at the movies. I mean, when we say YouTubers, it seems, it's not a derivative thing to say, but is it the training ground? I mean, you have to look at both of those filmmakers to see that they're inherently filmmakers, and they knew what they were doing. I think Kane Parsons pretty much trained himself to be a VFX guy off YouTube, but they inherently had a story that they knew people were going to see, and that they knew that they wanted to have it at the cinema. It wasn't something they were just going to dump somewhere. And in fact, I think there's a conversation of whether Obsession would have ended up on Shudder or whether it would have had a wide theatrical release. But they're also the kind of films, and inherently, if you look at Blumhouse and you look how they've done with all of their, the massive horror production house, they are sitting back and going, these films are cheap to make, and their potential to make a huge amount of money is great. And also, listen to me going to Backrooms on my own. I'd rather be going with someone else. It's a reason for people to get together and go to the cinema. And that's what I'm seeing. I was at the movies yesterday, just here in Tamaki Makaurau at St. Luke's. And when I came out of the cinema at 6 o'clock, I looked down. The lobby was rammed. Polina. There were queues at the counter, but also queue out into the mall for the automatic ticket machines. And everybody was going to the movies. And fascinatingly, a couple of headlines this week that popped up. The first one that kind of got my interest was Australia saying they just had the best May in history at the box office. And then yesterday, the States have made over $1 billion in May, the biggest May they've had since pre-COVID. And so I made a few calls around New Zealand distributors, and we have had the biggest May at the New Zealand box office in over a decade.
That's fantastic. And interesting because around this time, probably last year, we were talking about a lot of cinemas across the US closing and, very worried that people aren't going to the movies anymore, but they are.
They are.
And still a little bit worried about that. But it does feel like in practice and what people are anecdotally saying and seeing, is that those cinemas are full.
Well,
and people
that's
are going.
it. And in fact, we were having a little chat before we came on air with Braden, your producer, and he, the Devil Wears Prada cinemas are full. People keep going back again and again to see Michael. That's made so much money, and it keeps going up and down in the top 5 in New Zealand, where it drops to number 2 and then goes back to number 1. But you've got Backrooms at number 1 at the New Zealand box office, Obsession at number 3. But then you've also got the big Mandalorian and Grogu still bringing in people, and we have opening this week Masters of the Universe, which we'll chat about both those films shortly. But there feels like there's a little bit of something for everyone, and I think that makes a difference as well.
What do you think it is? Is it the movies or is it the mood, and is it some of the hype around it? Because when Project Hail Mary came out, which has starred Ryan Gosling, and he was
wouldn't
doing
you
what
argue
reviews,
that's kind of kicked it back off again?
Yeah, and he said at the time, he said, yes, we it is up to people to go to the movies, but it's also up to us as the filmmakers, as the actors, to actually create things that people want to see. That's not a one-way street. So is it a bit of both? Is it?
I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
Also, there's no such kind of thing as bad news. Whatever headlines are, people are talking about it. And my niece, Lola, who's down in Dunedin, her and her boyfriend went to see Obsession. She's still traumatised. She messaged me this morning. She said, I really wished I hadn't seen that film, which is hilarious. But because we're talking about it, my algorithm, unfortunately, is full of it because I'm fascinated by the discourse around it.
People are talking about it in their own chats, aren't they?
That's what they are.
How you
oh my
infiltrate.
God, everyone's talking about Backrooms. We should go and, you want to be part of the discourse around it. And also this whole conversation, is Gen Z going to be saving cinemas? They're going back to the movies. I don't think they ever stopped going. And if you would look at kind of the letterboxed phenomenon, it's part of their chat and conversation. So, which I'm very here for. I don't think there's any generation, and I don't think cinema, no, that's a lie. I think potentially, yes, cinema does need saving. But you've got everybody talking about it. Steven Spielberg is currently doing press for Disclosure Day, which I'm seeing tomorrow, and I'm just beside myself with excitement. And he's been asked about these 2 films, and he's just saying, look, we need all kinds of filmmakers. And he said he's called it almost renegade filmmaking. It's always happening. It's just some of it rises above, and we get chats about it, and big conversations, which we're having, which is great.
Okay, you're going to see Backrooms after this, but let's get to your list now for the big screen this week. Let's start with The Christophers. Now, this is a Steven Soderbergh film with Sir Ian McKellen and Emmy winner Michaela Coel from I May Destroy You, if you recognise that name. Now, it's a thriller about an art restorer hired by a famous painter's children, played by Jessica Gunning, that's a baby reindeer, and James Corden, to complete his unfinished works so they can be discovered and sold for millions after his death. Here's a clip.
Other door.
You said this was a restoration job. It's a forgery job.
We know why you hate him.
Think of this as a way to get revenge.
This isn't about the unfinished Christophers, is it? Please don't even speak of them.
Everybody knows what one original Julian Sklar from that period is worth.
I lied. You are to speak of them once. When you tell me they are no more. And then bring me the evidence. It's not that I don't trust you, Laurie. It's just that I don't trust you. Have you ever been betrayed, Laurie?
Sold. I love a good trailer, and often it's about the music. I had no idea when I went in to see this, Paulina, that it was a Soderbergh film.
Yeah.
And it was, honestly, it wasn't till the end when it came up and said directed by Steven Soderbergh, I thought, well, this makes complete sense. I love a trailer that leads you down a certain path and then takes you somewhere entirely different, because I had no idea that this was going to be a caper. We think of Soderbergh doing Out of Sight. We think of him doing the Oceans films. So there's a twisty-turny cat and mouse of this. I was not expecting.
Okay.
So if you're listening to that trailer, what are you thinking you're going into?
Well, I think with that music, when I watched it was like,
That's
You
right.
think it's a little bit kooky, a little bit, and it is Sir Ian McKellen with Michaela Coel, quite an unlikely couple as well.
And delicious.
Yeah,
as
great
you
to
can
watch them on
imagine.
screen. Both very, they've got sort of a fierceness to both of them in this particular film.
They absolutely do. That's a perfect summation. And I mean, we've talked about Mother Mary with Anne Hathaway and Michaela Coel, and I feel since I May Destroy You, which did destroy me, any opportunity to watch that incredible show about an episode at a time. It's not a binging one. It's a pretty full-on show, but it's amazing, and she's extraordinary. And then she kind of disappeared and popped up in one of the Wakanda films, and it was just like, okay, and we haven't really heard from her since. And now we have two amazing, and they're essentially two-handers.
Yeah.
Mother Mary, it's just essentially in many ways just her and Anne Hathaway. And even though you do have the supporting characters in this of the ghastly children, in this particular story, it's still essentially, you're right, it's Sir Ian McKellen and Michaela Coel. And it's a constant ebb and flow of what's really happening and what are people's motives. He's vile. Like he was a really he's like an incredible painter with this incredibly long legacy of extraordinary artworks that are worth millions and millions. And then he's just gone to ground in this crazy kind of rabbit warren of a two-story kind of three-story apartments in London. And when Michaela Coel goes in, she's kind of sort of picking her way through it. But the whole premise is that the kids want to kind of finish, as in get Michaela Coel's character Laurie to finish his paintings that he's refusing to finish because they want to sell them for millions and gazillions. And he's 80. Well, so Ian McKellen is 87 years old. His character is as well. So it's kind of ghastly, and he has kind of devolved in a way into this toxic kind of malevolent individual. And that's what she's exposed to when she meets him. However, things aren't always as you might expect, and also we're not really sure what her motives are. And they get slowly kind of revealed during the course of this. She's stunning. She's intoxicating. You can't take your eyes off her and her voice. And the script here is really, really great. And it was just surprising. I just felt everything about it was kind of you were sitting on the edge of your seat a little bit, which I wasn't expecting in what is essentially what felt like a story about a painter. So I really, really loved it.
I love the sound of this. That's The Christophers by Steven Soderbergh. Now, next on your list, always an excuse to get in a bit of Star Wars.
You're welcome.
Mandalorian and Grogu. This is Jon Favreau directing Pedro Pascal. Let's go to the trailer. Let's have a listen.
I can use some information.
Whoa, for this price, I'll tell you whatever you want.
I'm looking for a hut.
Close for the night. Thank you.
Gangsters, war criminals.
Long live the Empire.
We'll take out every bad guy in your deck of cards.
This isn't about revenge. It's about preventing another war.
Strap in.
Wow. Did you recognise Martin Scorsese's voice in that
No,
trailer?
I didn't. I was listening to Sigourney Weaver there.
I know, so she got an amazing voice.
Yeah, joins the cast as a veteran of the rebellion. So this is about the apprentice Grogu, and they're enlisted by the fledgling New Republic to protect what the rebellion fought for. I know you're a Star Wars
Well,
huge
it must
fan.
have been quite traumatising, ladies and gents. Paulina popped around to my house a couple of days ago, and my lounge is embarrassing, isn't it? It's just embarrassing. She's a grown woman that happens to have some quite a lot of Star Wars merch around my house. So it's a given, of course, that I'm going to go and see Mandalorian and Grogu on the big screen, and I got to see it on IMAX. You've got a show. Are you a Mandalorian fan? Are you a Star Wars person at all?
I like Star Wars.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm a diehard fan though.
No,
Yeah,
I
and
get it.
and haven't seen Mandalorian.
No,
Yeah.
and so you've not seen it on the
No,
the
and
show.
so I'm curious as to what you thought about this.
Well, I loved the show.
Okay.
And I love the character of the Mandalorian. It's kind of that whole aspect, like the Boba Fett character of these bounty hunters that cruise around the universe, and they kind of cut their own cloth. They're just doing their own thing. They're not really fussed on the Jedi or anyone else, really. They're just after it for the money. But it's actually an insight into what's basically the brethren of the Mandalorian, and it's there's a lot to it. But obviously, when you have a little baby Yoda, people just lost their tiny minds, and I was one of them. And it's great to see it on the big screen. And for me, having to see this story roll out on the small screen, it felt like I needed that impact of going into a cinema and the lights going down and immersing myself in a Star Wars story. What I will say is a lot of the criticism around it is valid. I mean, does it feel like a 2-hour-long episode of television? There are elements of that, mainly because I feel the story itself isn't memorable. In fact, to be honest, it's been 2 weeks since I've seen it, and I would struggle to sort of give you the intricacies of the story because it was not enough kind of really big ticket, kind of perilous kind of aspects of the story arc that made it memorable. So
Right, so do people feel like it bobs along like a TV episode?
Some have definitely said that. I was wildly entertained. That the entire concept of the Hutts, Jabba the Hutt, the big slug-like character, you may remember. No, yeah, there's a slug. His name's Jabba the Hutt, and we're dealing with lots of other slugs in this, and there might be some slug wrestling, and that for the fandom isn't sure how they felt about that. But there are so many amazing other things to enjoy on the big screen, which is the action. In fact, the first 10-15 minutes is just an all-out, foot-to-the-floor action sequence with the Mandalorian flying around on his jetpack, attacking stormtroopers and Imperial walkers, and I was whoop-whooping. I'm not going to lie. So, am I a diehard fan? I am, and to the point where I kind of have to maybe have a come-to-Kate moment, which is it's hard to me to be objective about Star Wars.
Do you read the all the comments and all the reaction, or do you go and make your own mind up?
I do. I'm not interested in what other people say about Star Wars particularly. There's been a lot of conversation in the last 5 years, possibly 10 years, about the toxic fandom, and even longer, I would say. If you think about the last really big films that came through and how much just toxicity there was around the fandom with The Last Jedi, which I loved that film. And it's kind of, it's really kind of misogynist sometimes, and it's racist, and you can't have such and such an actor, and no fandom in my mind should ever start wading through that toxic water, and I don't like that in the Star Wars fandom. And I'm just everything about it. It's not just a nostalgia thing for me. I think if it's a great Star Wars film, I'm absolutely in there. I really enjoyed The Mandalorian and Grogu, and I completely understand the people not enjoying it. There's a disappointment, and we have high standards when it comes to our Star Wars films, but I was into it, and it's a good reason to go to the cinema.
Yeah, go see this on the big screen. And lastly, Masters of the Universe. A lot of stars in this one. Nicholas, is it Galitzine?
I was going to ask you.
Yeah. Nicholas, he's
got
in
Greek heritage, so
Greek heritage.
It's Galitzine.
Camilla Mendes, Idris Elba, Jared Leto star in Travis Knight's long-awaited fantasy feature in which He-Man joins forces with Teela, Man-at-Arms, to save Eternia from the fiendish rule of Skeletor. Let's have a listen to a clip.
I never stopped trying to get back home.
Everything changed since you left.
It's all gone. Skeletor took my family. And he destroyed our world.
It's all my fault. I know how it feels to fail. Take the sword. And when you fall, that's your chance to stand tall.
By the power of Grayskull, I have the power. I am not a Masters of the Universe person. I do not have a He-Man or a she-woman doll kind of thing in my wardrobe. That's where my merch stops. So this film comes and people don't know who the audience is. Is it the people that loved He-Man in the 80s, and are they going to bring their kids, and what the heck's going on? You will recognise Brian May. And his guitar. The soundtrack is amazing. In fact, the whole soundtrack is top-notch. What I will say, because I know I have to keep this brief, I had zero expectations and was entertained Paulina. They just got that tone of self-awareness absolutely spot on and not at the expense of your IQ.
Yeah.
He is a movie star in this. Nicholas was fantastic. There's even a little, you'll like to know that Dolph Lundgren does have a tiny little cameo. He was the original 1987 He-Man. But they just got it right. The soundtrack's fantastic. The action is great. And it was, I'm just going to sit back and say I actually enjoyed Masters of the Universe.
I love that.
Okay.
Also, they just got it right is a pretty big compliment.
They just got
Do you know what I mean?
Day and age,
Yeah.
it feels like that because it's such a money grab. You know, the big Mattel
Exactly.
logo comes up and go buy some toys. But
Exactly.
actually, I reckon your kids will love it.
Okay, Masters of the Universe, another one for the big screen. Kate Rodger, thank you very much.
Always.
Great to have you in as per usual.